Hey, it's your boy, Sergeant Hook Henshins. So we are going to be talking about today, just like I did my top 10 Sentai seasons, which I've recently changed with the seasons that I've watched and stuff. Um, if you check that out, check that out on the page. Part 1 and Part 2 are up already. Again, with those and with this, but as a disclaimer, there will be big, huge, gigantic, sloppy spoilers because I have to talk about the whole show to kind of give you my idea of the season and where I place it and stuff like that. Also, like I said before, Sentai, just because my list is ordered the way it is, does not mean that any list that's lower or whatever is any better than any other ones. It's just basically my level of enjoyment and what I got from the show and what kind of resonated with me when I watched it. Um, and just because my list doesn't involve your favorites means nothing else. So that's the point of Toku, and the awesome thing with it is there's a show for everybody. As much as I'm not a fan of Saber at all, elements, but not much. There's Saber lovers out there. Just as much as people hate Zenkaiger, I love Zenkaiger and whatever. So that's kind of the beauty of it. But I'll get into the rankings as they are. And number 10 is Kamen Rider Den-O. This is one I've been interested in for a while because mainly because of the Taros. I've seen them in so many different crossover specials and things like that with Rider, and I'm like, okay, they're entertaining, but I probably should see where they come from. And I'm kind of glad I did. Den-O is a pretty decent season. I don't adore everything about it. Its final villain and arc is not one of my favorites. But everything leading up to that is pretty good. Everything involving, is it Kotaro? Is that his name? Or I can't remember that guy's name. Oh God. Everything involving Den-O himself, along with the Taros, their connections to each other, how they joined the team, his stuff with his sister, the stuff with Deneb and is it Yusuke? Is that the secondary rider in it? Zeranos. That's all really good stuff. I really like that. I like their connections to each other. I love the mystery with Zeranos, like an older version of him being the one that was with Den-O's sister, and him like slowly like accepting his future and getting attracted to the sister again and blah blah blah. That stuff is cool. The way they handle the time travel stuff and the train stuff, very unique. I love the lore and the world building with that. The final villain is such a weak villain. We hardly get any time with them to develop as a character at all. They don't have much of a backstory and they're just being evil for the sake of chaos. And it's different when it's like someone like the Joker, because the Joker is well written enough that you understand why they're all about chaos. They've lost everything else in their brain logical, so all they have left is just to strike out aggressively and cause mayhem. You know what I mean? And I guess you could say that about Kai, but also I don't care. Like, it'd be different if we got some backstory as to why he is the way he is, why his powers work the way they do, why how he got control over Imagine and stuff like that. But we don't, and that bothered me. I did like the stuff with Sieg, and I liked some of the extra movies and stuff like that were with it. That was good. But it just doesn't have the strongest ending. And some writer seasons have that where they kind of just like we're awesome all the way through and they kind of flub the ending. Even Sentai seasons can do that too sometimes. Um, so that's why number 10 is Den-O for me personally. Um, Number 9 is V3, Kamen Rider V3. I recently started watching more Showa era Kamen Rider after I watched the original Ichigo when it was on came on Tokusatsu and Tubi TV and anywhere else you can watch it now. Legally, please support the legal releases so we can get more of those. Um, and I really enjoyed it. I liked it as a sequel, a pseudo sequel to Ichigo, in the way that Ichigo and Nigo save his life. He like basically they're, if you don't know this, spoilers going ahead, but they're going to fight like a remnant of Shocker, and they get captured, and they're like being about to get murdered. Basically, he gets in the way and stops it, but he gets hit by the same microwaves or radio, whatever the waves are, the energy shit that's gonna basically kill him. That wouldn't have killed them; it would have severely injured them. And so they save his. They have the choice of either letting him die or making him into the same kind of cyborg they are, but better. So they kind of combine the best of the both of them to make V3. So then his belt is kind of cool because his belt has two little on the driver. It has like two like turbine engine parts to it or whatever. Because it's technically combining the powers of Nigo and Ichigo, which I think is really cool. I like his different like random skills throughout, you know, and different like moves and signature moves and like weapons and gadgets and other stuff that he's able to do. Stuff with his mask where he's like a radio antenna thing and a, you know, a scrambler thing, and just all these different gadgets are super cool. I really, really, really like V3 himself as a writer is really good. Of course, the drip is insane in the show because it's filmed in the 70s, so everybody's got that drippy drip style, which I really like. Um, and honestly, Destron's pretty good too as a as a like a next step of Shocker. Um, and again, I just like that it follows up from Ichigo and Nigo and from the original 1971 Kamen Rider series without feeling like they have to be there for this show to like stand on its own and do its own thing. They're there in different parts, at different points in the story, but they don't take up too much time, and they're there to support him, and they never are like fighting his battle for him. They're there at the beginning to make him V3. They come back in at one point and then a few other random times, and that's it. And I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's really strong, and I think that works to like push the main writer to not rely on that. So, yeah. So like I said, I really like V3. I love the theme song to it. I like the bike. The fighting is really good. The choreography is great. The monster suits are beautiful because it's, you know, Showa era, so they have that kind of a budget. So they have to be very creative with things. There's a lot of like, you know, a lot of random colors and metallics and sparkles and glitter and different things to kind of trick the eye into thinking that certain things are real or certain things look the way that they do. And I like that a lot. I think that's really cool. It's a very creative series, and it's a really nice follow-up and continuation of sorts to the original Ichigo and Nigo. So, number 8, actually, now that I say it, is the original 1971 Kamen Rider series. I had never had a chance to see this before, and it was one of the first things that Tokusatsu was able to bring through once they became a thing, along with Ultraman and some Super Sentai stuff. And it's a treat. It really is fun to go back and watch this after having like been raised on, if you will, Heisei era stuff where you have the belt gimmicks and the jingles and these crazy, you know, well choreographed martial arts fight scenes and these effects and explosions and all this other stuff we have. Take pretty much all of that away, and it's boiled down to just the bare essentials. I love the whole idea behind it where he looks human but can never consider himself fully human because he's cybernetic, and that he was captured by Shocker, made into this monster, and decided, no, I'm going to resist this brainwashing, and I'm going to use this power they bestowed upon me, not for evil, but for good, to strike back at them and to keep people safe. And I like that a lot. And it sets the tone and the tone for the series, but also sets a precedent for the rest of the franchise. Yes, there are some main writers that are a little darker than others. Decade comes up, Kiva, and a few others that are a little anti-hero-ish or just darker in the way they see things morally. But Ichigo is not. And I like that there's a lot of like references and stuff to like, he mentions at one point that justice is not as important as people's lives. That, yes, justice is important, but that people protecting people and keeping them alive and keeping them happy and making sure they have the chance to live and thrive is more important. I love that. I also love the ingenuity behind having Nigo be part of it. So if you don't know this, and that's okay if you might not, if you've never seen it, Hiroshi Fujioka, who plays Ichigo, at one point, either on set or on his own time in between filming or whatever, got injured in like a motorcycle accident. And so they weren't sure if he was going to come back. So they recast, basically, sort of, not really, another person to play Kamen Rider Nigo, who still fills the same Kamen Rider position, just different actor. And he's a separate character even, too. It's really cool because so they do that, and they're not really replacing him, just they could continue the show. Well, Fujioka ended up recovering pretty well and wanted to still be part of the show. And that will continue for a while. My man is still involved with the series to this day. But so then we end up getting both of them in it. So we do kind of have like sort of a primary, secondary writer type thing. At that time, that wasn't really a concept in those shows, in Showa era shows. That's more of a Heisei era thing and a Reiwa era thing to have primary and secondary writers. And it's honestly more of a fan designation than it is something from Toei. Sometimes they'll give that designation, but not always. But it's really cool to see the both of them together. It's very cool to see the henshin sequence, and that it's just, for the most part with him, it's just him jumping, and he has the, the hurricane belt thing, the typhoon belt, and it just gathers wind and transforms him. Um, Eventually, once Nigo joins, he actually does his own transformation pose, and they both do one, and so like that started a precedent of each Kamen Rider having a transformation pose. And you got Revice, the whole Revice stamp, Henshin, that was like his little 5 thing for 50 years. It's kind of cool. And just everything in between of every rider having a unique Henshin pose and like phrase and stuff like that. So the music is great, the villains are great, the monster designs are fun, and again, you should really treat yourself to watching it. It's 98 episodes. There's a lot of episodes, which is unique because nowadays that would never happen with Rider. But it's a lot of fun, and it has a fun connection to Super Sentai because it came first. Ishinomori made that and a manga to go along with it on TV, or while the TV series is going, and then because of its success, as they made a few more seasons, they eventually, the next idea was to do a Kamen Rider season that had 5 writers. And he said, well, it's been more of a solitary character thing. What if we try to mess with that, finagle with that? And that's when he came up with the idea of Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger, having spies. Because he was the creator of Cyborg 009, this group of robot cyborgs who have different abilities and are like secretive, stealthy spies. And so he took that idea, combined with a little bit of the stuff from Kamen Rider, the whole transformation stuff. It's known as the Henshin boom, apparently. I got the Go Ranger manga recently, collection. There's a bunch of stuff in there I'm talking about from that. And created Go Ranger. So I thought that was really cool how they're kind of connected, and he kind of had a hand in making both of them. Clearly, he's a character in Superhero Senki. So, but yeah, so I thought that was really cool how they're kind of connected, the two of the shows right there. And then not long after Go Ranger, there was Jaka that he produced, and then Go Ranger before that. He stepped off for a little bit, and he came back in for another season. The season he came back in with, I believe, was just after the Toei Spider-Man show, and that had a mecha in it, and because that was so successful having the mecha in it, they put mecha into Super Sentai, and that's never stopped. So, again, just a fun connective tissue thing of how those things are pieced together. And happy 45th anniversary to Super Sentai, and of course a happy 50th to Rider, and a happy 55th to Ultraman. So, anyway, bit of a tangent, just want to talk about that. So yeah, Ichigo is fun. He is a badass. He is very protective. He is very smart also. I like that he's an intelligent guy and a scientist himself. All the supporting characters are really good, and in general, it's just a fun show. You really are doing yourself a favor watching it and getting a good perspective shot of where things started and where we're at now. Number 7 is Kamen Rider O's. This is another one that I knew besides Den-O. I'm like, okay, there's 2 ones I gotta watch. At some point, I gotta watch Den-O. I gotta watch O's. And I'm really glad I did. O's has got a fantastic, super personal story. I really like that there's not a ton of riders in it, that it's basically just O's birth and proto-birth, and that's it. And really not even proto-birth for a long time. Like, it's a light in the series that happens. So I like that there's a tight number of riders in it. The interactions and stuff with Ankh and Eiji are like perfect. Their relationship is awesome, and I love him. Like, as much as Eiji throughout the series is becoming more greed-like, Ankh is becoming more human and realizing what it means to be human because he's taking control of the one sister's brother. I can't remember her name at this time. She's a really strong character too. Pretty much everybody is, honestly. The villains are pretty good. I like the greed, but I really like the creepy doctor guy who has the little puppet as well. And overall, the villains are pretty threatening and do a pretty good job. There's never feels like a wasted episode. There's some really fun episodes. There's like the 1000th episode or whatever it is of Kamen Rider episode, and it's them like filming like the special, and it's just, oh my god, it's beautiful. It's just really good. The secondaries are really good. Goto-san is really great, and so is Date as well, who's the original birth before he has to pull out, and then Goto takes over. Goto's arc, wanting to be birth, not getting the chance, being trained by the actual person who gets chosen, Date, and then eventually becoming birth, is a perfect arc and really well put together. And I like that they didn't rush it, and it took him a while to be able to transform. That was cool, because any other series he would have been like 4th or 5th episode transformed and done. It takes Goto a while. The suits are beautiful. I love the metals. I love the combinations, the colors of the suits, the Tatoba. Sorry, Toei. And the combat's really great. I like how each suit fights a little differently and has different abilities with it. Um, I will say that unfortunately, I'm on the side of Toei that Puto Tira to me is the final form. I get thematically that Tajadol is, but they're also getting, not only was the series so great, we're getting a 10 years after thing. Um, and it's Ankh coming back into it, and he's getting his own separate rider form, Tajadol Infinity or Tajinity or something like that. So that'll be the real final form, anyways. Who cares what the final form is? But a really great series, a great cast of characters, well casted. They act their asses off. The music is great. The combat is great. The gimmick with the medals is awesome. And overall, just a fantastic series. It really is. It's a lot of fun, and it's another one that I can recommend for sure. Like if you've not seen O's or you've been hearing about it but you've never seen it, definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. The theme song is just gonna stay stuck in your brain forever. Um, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It really is, and it's very vibrant, very fun, very uh, peppy. The pacing is really good, and it's got a lot of heart and a lot of emotion to it. There's a lot of sadness in it. There's a lot of darkness in it, and a really awesome cast of characters that come together and give an awesome performance and make one of the better seasons of this franchise. And I really do enjoy it. Um, so that's O's, and my number five, or sorry, six pick is Kamen Rider Decade. Um, Decade is another one similar to O's and Den-O that I was really interested in but hadn't watched and wanted to. And the cool thing now is that a majority of Decade's content is out there. When the series first originally came out, it ended on a crazy cliffhanger, which then gave a preview of a movie thingy that never happened. So people were pissed. They were getting like death threats at Toby and like really angry parent calls and stuff like that. Um, you're saying, oh, it's anniversary season. How is that your top 10? Blah blah blah. I don't care. I like anniversary seasons. I'm gonna say it right now. Geo has a lot of things I like in it. It's not my top 10, but it has a lot of things I like in it. Clearly, Gokaiger is one of my favorite Sentai seasons of all time, and so is Decade. So shh. Um, Decade, I love the concept of like these AR worlds, and they're like similar to the seasons, but not exactly. Like the Kugo one has a female Ichijo in it, um, and then he ends up coming with them for the whole series, which is kind of fun. Uh, and just the little differences are fun to pick out. If you've watched the seasons that Decade's all about, which is the first 10 of the Heisei era and a celebration of them, um, then you really, it really is a treat. And I've not watched every one of them. I've watched bits and pieces of those seasons leading up to Decade. Um, but it's still really fun. And it was similar to me like Decade, where if you haven't seen the previous seasons, you're not going to be lost. It enriches your experience, but especially with Decade, where there are these augmented reality versions of those worlds that are a little different, you're not losing a ton by not having seen the original series. You are going to appreciate it more if you have, but you're not going to be completely confused by it because it gives you a very truncated summary, summarized version of what happened or a variation of that. I love Decade's suit with the magenta and the white and the black and all of that. The driver's really cool. I own the Neo Deca driver, so duh, I love Decade. I love the whole card aesthetic, the little Kamen Rider Decade. I love it. I love it so much. Um, his little catchphrase, the little Tori Sugari no Kamen Rider da. Oh boy, okay. Like, I'm just a passing through Kamen Rider. Remember that? Basically threatening them, like, hey, don't mess with me. I'm just trying to get through this, but I'm also a Kamen Rider and I'll kick your ass. So, I like Tsukasa a lot. A lot of people, like, it's kind of like mixed on if people love him or hate him. I like him as a main writer. I like that he's kind of a dick. I like that he's known as this destroyer of worlds, and that's what all the other writers are worried about is that he's going to destroy their world. Um, but the main series with the follow-up like specials and movies and stuff like that really do paint a good picture of him and give a nice backstory to him. There's a really good backstory stuff about him at one point being part of Shocker, and he had a sister and losing his memory, and this new Shocker is what created the driver. Again, that just ties it right back to Ichigo because his stuff came from Shocker. um, it's really fun to see the different suits with the Deca driver on it when he uses the card to transform into them, Kamen Rider, and transforms into them. It's the suit with the Deca driver on is kind of cool. I like the whole like into their back and he turns them into some kind of weapon for the final attack ride thing. Um, and Yeah, it's really fun. Villain wise, I'm trying to remember the villains. I feel like it's just like the villain of each AR world, which is weird. And then he does show up in Geo, so he fights their villains. So I guess that's something. But it's really fun. The theme song's really good. Another one got stuck in your head, very somber, very good. Um, and the mechanic with the cards is really cool. Actually, I had a couple ideas in my head of how they could like try to adapt that as far as adapting it for an American audience as Masked Rider. Because I mean, with it being AR World stuff, clearly you like, yeah, it'd be a lot to have all these different riders to show throughout the series, but American audiences wouldn't have to know anything about those seasons because in this series none of these worlds work the exact same way they do in their original seasons. So but it's really cool. They do get some returning actors, some they don't. They have to get some stand-in type people or other people to be the character, um, and some unique takes on certain ones. The Kabuto one sticks out to me. The Kiva one is really interesting. Hibiki is really good. So yeah, it does a really good job as both an anniversary season and as standing on its own. It's not. I kind of put it. If there's like a scale of being held back by being an anniversary season, I'd put Gokaiger at the top. I'm sorry, but a little. Um, Decade in the middle, and then Zenkaiger way down here. And Geo probably a little bit behind Zenkaiger, probably closer to Decade. Um, uh, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. The characters are really fun. I like the whole traversing the world mechanic. I like pretty much all of it is really fun. And don't let what others think of it hold you back from watching it. That's another thing I want to talk about with this is that just because someone else has told you they didn't like a certain season or they didn't like this or they didn't like that, they hated this, all this came out and on a cliffhanger like this, it doesn't matter. Because with Decade, all the stuff is out there. Go ahead and watch it now. All of it's out there. You don't have to wait for, oh my god, I gotta call Toei because the show ended on a TV Asahi at this time and it didn't end on a way that it made sense to me, so I'm mad about it. Like, I get it at the time, I would have been mad too. But the show is all out there now, so why are we mad? I also really like the final form. I like Decade Complete. Decade Complete 21, the cape needs to not. But Decade Complete is fun. I like Decade Complete. I like the whole touchscreen thing. I own it. Clearly, I like it. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy it. I love the doo 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 doo. The music to it is really good. The henshin music and just everything about the music is fun. And I like that he's just constantly clashing with every primary rider and sometimes even secondary rider of every season. I think that's really fun to see that. And that they at first see him as a threat, and he kind of like each one is a two-parter, which is fun. And so that by the end of the two-parter, he's like kind of convinced them to work with him, and they've convinced him to like calm the hell down and learn from them too. So that's really cool. Um, but yeah, it's a really good season. And clearly, people loved it because Sukasa and the guy that plays him keeps coming back multiple times to play the character. I mean, we had the Geo specials, the Decade versus Geo and Geo versus Decade specials we did. He was a big part of Geo, so it's a fun season. It's a fun season. So that's gonna wrap up this video, I guess, for my favorite top 10 favorite rider seasons, part one. This is of course entries 10 through 6. So clearly, part two will be the final top 5. Might be surprising, probably won't be. I don't have anything visually in my body to spoil it to you, but soon. Um, but let me know in the comments below, what are your guys' favorite rider seasons? What do you guys think? Do you guys more, maybe angle yourself more towards Showa era? Do you more like Heisei? Are you more with Reiwa with the few seasons we have in Reiwa? I'm thinking once Revice is done, I might bump out Den-O and put Revice in there somewhere. Um, but yeah, so I had a lot of fun making this video. And I talk too much and I'm tired, so I want to stop talking for a little bit. But hope you guys enjoyed the content this week. Like I said, Revice and Zenkaiger reviews up this week. Hopefully this as well. I'm going to try to get part 2 out. I don't know for sure. If you don't know, a little life update. We're right in the middle, my wife and I, my kids, of selling the house we're currently in and moving probably into her parents for a little bit and then eventually to a new house because you got a new job. Yay, more money. So if there's a bit of like a pause or a block in content, that is why. I do apologize. But thank you guys so much for the support this year, for subscribing, for watching the videos, liking, commenting. I really, really appreciate it. I know I mention it almost every time I make a video, but I just want you guys to know that I do. I really do appreciate you guys. I don't get a billion comments, but I get some, and I like that. I like the support I'm getting on Twitter. and just in general, it's fun to like have a way to like talk about this stuff and blurb it out without having to bore my wife with it or my parents who don't care about it. And there's very few IRL people that I know besides one, my very best friend, who cares about any of this. So it's nice to talk to you guys about it. So, anyway, that'll do it for this part one of the um, my top 10 favorite rider seasons. Look out for part two. That'll be Andrew's course 5 through 1. Yeah, until next time, stay hooked on Henshins, and also Henshin!